This is the tough part here. Look at that, just sky. It is so hard to get your bearings here. You know, as a driver, you like to look at reference points. Here, the reference points are only sky and rock. Hey guys, Robb Holland, and welcome to another episode of Mastering the Mountain, where you guys, the viewers at home, get to see the inside, behind the scenes look at what it takes to make it to the top of Pikes Peak. Now, today we're going to take a look at my 2017 run, and some of you guys may know this from the Jalopnik articles on the build of the car, where we took a salvaged C7 Z06 Corvette and turned it into a Pikes Peak hill climb car in 75 days. It was an epic project, and basically the first time I was able to really run it up the hill in anger was this run right here. So let's take a look at it. All right, first thing is, as a driver, you are in the start house. This is the most nervous part of the hill climb. Like, it's all anticipation, it's everything. And especially for me this year with this car, it's completely untested, so I had no idea what to expect. You get a good launch from the start house. You want to carry as much momentum across the start finish line as possible. Clock starts now. All right, the big thing on the bottom half of the hill is that you are trying to get some heat in your tires. The Pirelli slicks that I was using this year require about 200 to 240 degrees to actually get to the point where they've got a whole bunch of grip. The problem is that you don't have that heat in the tires at the bottom. And the bottom section is a bit different from the middle and the top in that it is very fast and very flowing. So you can see me working the wheel here, trying to generate some heat in the tires, but also trying to figure out where my level of grip is. I'm really not sure yet. And you know, even though those trees don't look as bad as some of the other sections of the mountain, I will tell you right now, they have been there for 400 years and you do not want to hit one of these things. So even though the lower section of the mountain looks a bit easier, it is not at all. All right, so carrying speed through these S's here, once again, trying to generate some load, long sweeping right-hander here, dab of the brakes, get down into the left hand. Still trying to feel the car and kind of figure out where I am. You know, it's one of those things you've got to get into a rhythm on the hill climb. It throws so much at you, and you really want to make sure that you can get your focus right, because obviously you make a single mistake here and it's not a good day. So sweeping left-hander up this hill, hard on the brakes right here, carry the speed through this corner. There's a long straightaway. You can kind of maintain throttle here. You're trying to still, once again, feel that level of grip. I'm not really sure that it's there, so I'm still being a little bit cautious. You can hear me kind of off the throttle a little bit. That could have been flat if I'd known that the grip was there. Hard on the brakes. This corner catches everybody out. This is Engineer's Corner. It's the first hard hairpin that you have on the circuit. A lot of the rookies, you'll see that like later in the day, they've missed that braking zone and they've gone off there. So really, really dangerous corner. Now it's all flat up through here, up through the picnic grounds. This is the first big spectator area you'll see on the course. It's 120, 130 miles an hour through here. You are just hauling the mail. So you can still hear the cheers of the crowd, hard on the brakes into this left-hander. It's very, very easy to get this one wrong. Once again, you're still settling into the rhythm as a driver, trying to get a feel for things. I'm now kind of getting a bit more confidence that I've got the grip, and I want to make sure that I can, nope, but not quite. I still have a bit of oversteer there. I don't have the heat in the tires that I'm looking for. This is the first real hairpin, hard on the brakes here. Get the wheel hard over. It's a bit more difficult for me this year because I'm not driving a pure race car, so there's a lot more steering lock to lock. So when you're seeing me up in the upper hairpins, it's really hard to keep both hands on the wheel, and that's something that's really important here because you're trying to control 900 horsepower, and the last thing you want to do is what we call shuffle steer, is move your hands around too much. All right, into this triple apex left-hander. It's blind. Now I'm starting to get some load in the tires. I'm starting to get some heat there, getting a bit more confidence in the car, starting to feel the rhythm of the course. All right, back up through here. Once again, a lot of these corners are blind because of all the trees and stuff that are kind of blocking your viewpoint, and you just have to remember every single corner. In the off season, I watch a ton of videos. I have a simulation online that I can kind of use to hopefully memorize the course and the rhythm. And this is also one of the places where us vets have a little bit more of an experience than the rookies, in that we've driven the course before, so we can rely on kind of our muscle memory to kind of bring bring us through the 156 corners that Pikes Peak Hill Climb has. Into the hairpin, this is up into the ski area. This is the next big spectator area here. Fast right-hander, and then you get the car right up along the barriers. You can hear the spectators cheering. This is an awesome feeling as a driver. This series of corners I have a mnemonic for. That was the right-hand corner. This is rookies right here because it catches a lot of the rookies out because it is a bit slower than you think. And then the next real corner you've got coming up, I call Randy. And the reason I call it Randy is for my old teammate Randy Popst. He had a big crash here off on the left. He had just forgotten where he was on the course. This corner looks a lot like a corner a little bit farther up that you can carry a lot more speed through, and he went off. So I use that as a mnemonic to remember those three corners, right? Rookie Randy. Now we're up into starting getting up towards the end of the first section. This is the corner I was telling you guys about that Randy kind of got wrong. He thought it was this corner. You can get on the throttle here, coming up towards where we end our qualifying a couple days before. It's a long sweeping left-hander. You're just balancing the throttle here. Boom, hard on the throttle onto the straightaway. Now, this whole section of the course we have not driven yet in practice this year. They divide the mountain up into three parts. That was the lower part. Coming up here is the middle, and then we have the upper, but that part is completely unknown. Glen Cove, this is the middle sector. Big, huge bump here. You got to be really careful on the brakes. You don't lock it off and go skidding off into the guardrails on the left. Back on the throttle hard, up to the next hairpin. You can starting to see like the tree line is starting to thin out a little bit. Hasn't quite gotten there, but you know you are now starting to get up to the middle section of the mountain. This is the dramatic view. So back on the throttle hard. You've got this long sweeping right-hander here. You're trying to balance the car all the way through here. Hard on the brakes. Get it back, turn to the left. Little bit bumpy through here. You've got, maintain that, maintain your steering angle there. Don't get the rear too loose. Back on the throttle. Now you can start seeing the tree line starting to disappear. The trees are going. There's a gate here on the left-hand side that I use to just see where the reference point is on the mountain. There it is. And then hard on the brakes right at the sign here into the first of the hairpins on this middle section of the mountain. This is the tough part here. Look at that, just sky. It is so hard to get your bearings here. As a driver, you like to look at reference points. Here, the reference points are only sky and rocks, and all the rocks look the same, all the sky looks the same. So it is really difficult for a driver to figure out exactly where he is. But look at those views on the right-hand side. I'm not focused on those so much. My issue is more focused on the mountain. If you see, I just grabbed a little bit of what looks like the windshield wiper nozzle. We actually have a spray for our radiators and intercoolers to hopefully get them a little bit cooler to maintain pace all the way up the hill. Now, here's my big worry for this year as I'm starting to get up into the clouds. Pikes Peak Hill Climb is notorious for bad weather, especially at this time of the year, and it is a huge concern for me as a driver because you just don't know now that you're up into the cloud level, what's coming around that next corner. Is it going to be sun? Is it going to be hail? Is it going to be rain? Who knows what it's going to be? And when you're loaded up at 80, 90 miles an hour, it is super, super concerning as a driver not to really know what the road conditions are going to be like around that next bend. All right, we are into the W's now, back up into the really heavy clouds. Now I'm really getting a bit concerned. There are a couple corners up here you just don't want to get wrong, and if you have any sort of issues up here, it's really, really dangerous. All right, the top of the first W's. Now, if you remember what I was saying, a lot of corners look the same. That is the first upper corner of the W, and you'll see in 2 seconds why that's important. It's a hairpin there. Onto the brakes, the lower section here. Now you can see we got some snow coming up. You can tell it's a bit colder up here. All right, look at this long sweeping left. Is it a hairpin? It is a fast corner. Oh, it's a decreasing radius. This is Evo corner. That's where the Evo went off a few years ago. It's one of the more dangerous corners on the circuit. But big deep breath. We're up into 16 Mile. Look at the crowds there up on the mountain. It's just so epic. Once again, you can hear them cheering. It makes you push all that much harder. All right, into the hairpin up here. Getting through here and getting up into Devil's Playground. This to me is the mark of the upper section. I've made it through the dangerous middle section. Now it is, once again, the road completely changes here. Everything is much faster, much longer straightaways than you saw in the lower section. Look at that fast kink. You're at 90, 95 miles an hour through there. Once again, still don't have any reference points. All you're seeing is really sky. There are a couple rocks that I've actually marked out on the left-hand side, so I have a little bit of reference, but not a huge amount. This on the left coming up is the most dangerous corner on the circuit. It is bottomless pit. If you get your braking wrong here and go over that rock wall, it is 1,200 feet before you hit anything, and it's the ground. So you don't want to get that one wrong. All right, made it through. That is kind of my big, like, okay, relief. Now I can start pushing a bit harder. Obviously, there is still some areas up here that you could get wrong and get fairly well injured, but that was the big one right there. So now we're through that, back up into the faster flowing sections, little bit bumpy up here. You're gonna see here in a minute where it gets really, really bad. And this is where the areas where it starts to be very difficult to be in a full-blown race car that doesn't have a lot of suspension. With this car, it's a bit more of a street car, so I've got some suspension travel, so the bumps aren't quite so bad, but you're gonna see they're really, really bad. It really does upset the car coming through here. All right, into one of kind of the last of the middle section or the upper section hairpins. Right before I get into this narrow, twisty section here, this is where it starts to get a little bumpy. You can see the car starting to move around a little bit. My camera in there has got image stabilization, so you can still see even with that. Look how much the car's moving around. Look at the bumps there. It is really difficult to put 900 horsepower to the ground when all of your tires aren't really on the ground anymore. I mean, look at those bumps right there. I mean, it's just really upsetting to the car. It's really difficult to be able to control the car. And you know, the big thing right now is that we're getting up into the really high altitudes. We're at probably 13,500 feet. The oxygen is getting a little bit less, and your car is working really hard. You're working really hard as a driver. The focus, you're trying to focus 100%. It's hot and you're tired and you just want to get to the finish line. We're coming up into the cog cut area. Look at how bumpy it is through here. It is just really unsettling for the car. You're on the brakes really, really hard coming into this hairpin, but look at how bumpy it is. It's really difficult to get the car slowed down in time. It's one of the most nerve-wracking corners because you're so close to the finish line. You know, one little mistake can end your run, you know, when you're within a mile to the finish. So, all right, through cog cut, here we go. Long sweeper. Once again, it is still really bumpy. It is so difficult for the crew at Pikes Peak to lay a smooth road up here for us. So that is one of the challenges of Pikes Peak Hill Climb that you just don't see as a spectator. It is so difficult for the drivers. All right, last big hairpin here. Get the car tucked in. Back to throttle hard. All right, long sweeping left-hander. You know the finish line is right around the corner. You're pushing, but it's so bumpy, and you're trying to control the car. You're looking for the flagman. There he is, hard on the throttle all the way across the line. Just completed a run up Pikes Peak. I can't tell you, you cross that line and it is such a relief to get there as a driver. You've so much work, so much effort to cross the line, and everybody who has helped you out, you are just so thankful that you were able to get that run down and complete. So guys, that was my 2017 run at Pikes Peak Hill Climb. Please join us this year, August 30th, for this edition, the 98th running of the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. I'll be back in an Audi RS3 and hopefully going for the front wheel drive record. We'll see you then.